Hazardous waste. It can endanger your health and the environment, but it doesn't have to. If you work with or around chemicals, knowing how to properly handle and store hazardous waste can make your workplace a safer place.
Chemicals. They're great! They make our jobs so much easier. Some processes would not even be possible without them. But what about hazardous waste? Hazardous waste is what many chemicals and other materials become after we're done using them.
Mishandling or improper storage of hazardous waste can be disastrous to you, your company, and even your community. Waste is classified as hazardous if it could cause injury, illness, or death, or if it pollutes water, air, or land. Hazardous waste can be liquid, solid, or gas. Understanding the characteristics of hazardous materials can help you handle them safely.
These 4 characteristics are ignitability, corrosivity, reactivity, and toxicity. The MSDS and label should tell you the characteristics for each chemical.
Examples of ignitable materials are some solvents and fuels. A liquid is considered ignitable if it has a flash point, that is, can ignite, below 140 degrees Fahrenheit. A solid is considered ignitable if it can spontaneously catch fire and burn vigorously. Any water-based waste that can corrode steel at a rate of 1/4 inch a year or cause permanent tissue damage is classified as corrosive. Many acids, caustics, and oxidizers are considered corrosive. Waste that reacts violently with water or is unstable or explosive is considered reactive. Wastes that release toxic vapors are also reactive, like hydrogen cyanide or hydrogen sulfide. Waste that releases certain amounts of toxic metals, solvents, or other materials when tested is considered toxicity characteristic, or TC waste. Examples of TC wastes are pesticides and insecticides, solvents like benzene, or wastes that contain lead, arsenic, mercury, or chromium.
Every container should be labeled with information on the risks associated with the waste inside. This information needs to be clearly visible to the employee, to the emergency response personnel, and to the public.
You may not have much to do with the handling and storage of waste, but you do need to know how to protect yourself when working with chemicals and how to properly dispose of or store the waste when you're done. Always use the appropriate protective equipment when handling hazardous waste, according to your company's hazard communication program. The first step in hazardous waste management is finding ways to reduce the amount of waste you create, either by using less, recycling, or using alternative, less hazardous products. Proper storage is essential with hazardous waste. The type of waste determines the kind of container it should be stored in. Containers need to be compatible with the waste, so the waste won't react with the container or make it break down. For example, use a polyethylene drum for corrosive waste rather than a metal drum. Corrosive materials can eat away at metal. Containers must be leak-proof, and they should be kept closed except when adding or removing wastes. Small containers used for collection of hazardous wastes need to be compatible and should be labeled for the types of waste they hold. Never put wastes that could react with each other into the same container. Even if one waste has been emptied out, don't put in another waste that could react with chemical residue in the container. You could get a violent reaction or extreme heat. Properly clean containers before changing the type of waste they hold. Know how to properly handle and open and close each type of container you work with so it doesn't rupture or leak. Incompatible wastes are wastes that could react with each other if their containers leak, if they spill, or if they're exposed to heat. Incompatible wastes should be stored in separate areas. They could be separated by walls or berms, or separate containment systems designed for accidental spills, leaks, or combustion. Ignitable and reactive wastes are stored according to OSHA and the Uniform Fire Code, or the code adopted by your local fire district. Often these wastes are stored in metal fireproof lockers or storage units. Lockers or storage units must also be clearly marked.
Hazardous waste can be very dangerous if it's not handled correctly. And it doesn't just affect us, it affects our environment as well.
If hazardous waste is not stored properly, it can leak into the ground or stormwater systems. Hazardous waste discharged into water systems can be fatal to fish and pollute water supplies.
Don't just pour leftover chemicals down the drain. It can cause big trouble at the sewage treatment plant.
Hazardous waste in sewer systems may interfere with the treatment process at the treatment plant or degrade the collection system. Ignitable waste could cause explosions when reacting with the chemicals used in water treatment. Hazardous waste can be a serious safety and health problem, endangering our lives and the world around us. Unless hazardous waste is properly treated, stored, and disposed of, it can do great harm.
So be smart. Try to cut down on your waste and handle it according to company procedure. And don't mix incompatible hazardous waste. That's a recipe for disaster.